Have you ever imagined a car with the heart of an airplane? Now think about it again. This isn't just about power. It's a level of mechanical brutality that simply doesn't belong on the streets. Machines that were born to fly, ripped out of the sky and placed on four wheels, creating some of the most absurd vehicles ever built. And what if I told you some of these cars had engines bigger than industrial machines, producing a sound powerful enough to shake the ground? Why would anyone do this? Was it engineering, madness, or pure obsession with speed? Today, you're about to take a journey through time, discovering machines that defied all logic and redefined what power on wheels truly means. Are you ready to see the most insane cars ever built with aircraft engines? Stick with me, because the last one on this list doesn't even feel real. Cunningham C4R. The Cunningham C4R was introduced in 1952 in the United States, created by Briggs Cunningham during a time when automotive engineering was beginning to absorb direct influence from aviation in the post-World War II era. Under the hood, it featured a Chrysler V8 engine with 331 cubic inches, about 5.4 liters, producing around 300 horsepower. It was an 8-cylinder engine that already used hemispherical combustion chambers, a design widely used in aircraft engines to improve efficiency and fuel burn at high RPM. In practice, this resulted in a more consistent and reliable power delivery, something essential both in aviation and endurance racing. It could go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in about 6 seconds and reach a top speed close to 250 kilometers per hour. Very strong numbers for its time. Fuel consumption was high, averaging around 2 to 3 kilometers per liter under heavy use, reflecting that same performance-first mindset seen in aircraft engines. The 4-speed manual transmission had direct engagement and well-balanced gear ratios to keep the engine in its power band. Independent suspension on all 4 wheels provided above-average stability, while rear-wheel drive demanded full control from the driver. Visually, it was low, wide, and shaped with lines that resembled aircraft fuselages. The engine sound was deep and continuous, giving the sensation of something ready to take off at any moment. In real use, it competed in endurance races like Le Mans, where mechanical reliability was just as important as speed. And that's exactly where its aviation influence stood out. Over time, it became a symbol of an era when cars began inheriting solutions from the world of aviation. And here's an interesting detail. Many of the engineers involved had experience with military aircraft, which directly influenced how the car behaved at high speeds. And if this already surprised you with its power, the next one takes it further, with an engine that literally came out of the sky and onto the road. Napier Railton. The Napier Railton was built in 1933 in the United Kingdom, designed by Reed Railton with one clear goal: to break speed records. And here, there's no light adaptation or indirect influence. This car was fitted with the actual heart of a World War I aircraft. Under its massive hood sat the Napier Lion engine, a 24-liter W12 originally used in British aircraft like the Supermarine Sea Lion. An engine designed to deliver constant power in flight, but on the ground it became something completely outrageous. We're talking about a 12-cylinder engine, producing around 580 horsepower, with extremely high torque. In practice, it pushed the car forward with relentless force, almost effortlessly. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time was around 8 seconds, while top speed exceeded 270 kilometers per hour, an incredible feat for the 1930s. Fuel consumption was extreme, often dropping below 1 kilometer per liter under heavy use, behaving far more like an aircraft than a car. The 3-speed manual transmission had long gear ratios, taking full advantage of the engine's massive torque. The suspension was simple with a solid axle, and rear-wheel drive made it especially demanding at high speeds. Visually, it was an intimidating machine. The hood seemed endless, almost entirely dominated by the engine. The sound was deafening, unmistakably similar to an aircraft accelerating on the ground. In practice, it dominated tracks like Brooklands, breaking records and proving that aircraft engines could rule the asphalt. Over time, it became a legend that still exists today. And here's something interesting. The driver had to sit slightly off to the side because the engine took up almost all the space in the car. If you thought this was extreme, the next one takes things even further, with a configuration that feels almost unreal. Bluebird CN7. The Bluebird CN7 was developed in the early 1960s in the United Kingdom by Donald Campbell, one of the biggest names in the history of speed. Unlike the others, this one wasn't adapted later. It was built from the ground up with a clear purpose: to use aviation technology to break land speed records. Instead of a conventional engine, it used a Bristol Siddeley Proteus turbine, the same type used in aircraft and military vessels at the time. In other words, this wasn't an adapted engine, but a true aircraft propulsion system brought directly to the ground. This turbine produced the equivalent of over 4,000 horsepower. The way it delivers power is completely different, with smooth and continuous acceleration, just like an airplane gaining speed on a runway. The 0 to 100 km/h happens in just a few seconds, but that's almost irrelevant, because the real focus is top speed. The Bluebird surpassed 640 km/h, entering a territory that almost no conventional car can reach. Fuel consumption was extremely high, comparable to an aircraft, burning massive amounts of fuel in just minutes. There's no traditional transmission. Power is delivered directly, and the car uses all-wheel drive to maintain stability at extreme speeds. The suspension was especially designed to handle uneven desert surfaces, keeping control even above 500 km/h. Visually, it looks more like a rocket than a car. Fully enclosed with a sealed cockpit and aerodynamic lines, the sound is a high-pitched, continuous turbine roar, completely different from any automotive engine. In practice, it was used in places like Lake Eyre in Australia, where it set land speed records. This project solved one of the biggest engineering challenges: maintaining stability at extreme speeds using aviation technology outside the air. During testing, it suffered a massive crash at over 500 km/h, and even so, it was rebuilt and came back to break records. And if that already feels like something from another world, the next one doubles the madness, with not one, but two aircraft engines working together. Sunbeam 1000 HP. The Sunbeam 1000 HP was built in 1927 in the United Kingdom with a clear goal: to become the fastest car in the world. And to achieve that, engineers didn't hesitate. Instead of one, they installed two aircraft engines in the same machine. Each engine was a Sunbeam Matabele V12 with 22.4 liters, originally developed for military aircraft during World War I. That means two real aircraft engines working together, totaling an incredible 44.8 liters of displacement. In total, that's 24 cylinders producing around 1,000 horsepower. For its time, this wasn't just extreme, it was completely beyond anything that existed. Acceleration was already brutal for such a massive machine, with 0 to 100 km/h happening in just a few seconds considering the era. But the real highlight was top speed, exceeding 320 km/h and breaking world records. Fuel consumption was extreme, like running two airplanes at once. Efficiency simply didn't matter here. The manual transmission was basic and had to handle enormous force, while rear-wheel drive made it even more challenging. The suspension was rigid, focused purely on keeping the car stable in a straight line. Visually, the Sunbeam 1000 HP was gigantic. two engines mounted in sequence, one behind the other, creating an intimidating presence. The sound was deafening, like two aircraft accelerating at the same time. In practice, it was built exclusively for speed records, achieving its goal by becoming the first car to exceed 200 miles per hour. It became an instant legend, representing a moment when engineering simply ignored limits. And here's an impressive detail. The two engines had to be manually synchronized, making it even more complex to operate. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever seen anything at this level? If this kind of insane engineering impresses you, make sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because there's a lot more madness coming. And if you think this is already too much, the next one proves this idea didn't stay in the past. It came back even more extreme. Packard Bentley. The Packard Bentley is a modern creation from the United Kingdom, built by enthusiasts who decided to revive the most insane era of engineering, putting aircraft engines into cars. And here, there's no mild adaptation. This is a real aircraft engine from World War II. At its core is a Packard-built V12 engine with 27 liters, the same type used in aircraft like the P-51 Mustang, one of the most iconic fighter planes in history, an engine designed for combat in the skies, now unleashed on the road. It produces around 1,500 horsepower, with massive torque available almost all the time. The acceleration feels completely different from a normal car. It's not just fast, it's relentless. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour happens in about 6 seconds, but the real impression comes from its continuous pull at any speed. Fuel consumption follows aircraft standards, extremely high, often dropping below 1 kilometer per liter under heavy use. The transmission is manual, adapted to handle this brutal force, with long gear ratios to match the engine's torque. Rear-wheel drive demands respect, because one mistake can quickly turn things out of control. The suspension follows a classic style, reinforced to handle the massive weight and power, keeping the car stable within reason. Visually, it looks like a 1930s race car taken to the extreme. The hood is enormous, almost entirely dominated by the engine. The sound is deep and violent, very close to an aircraft at full throttle.
Sorry.
In practice, it wasn't built for official racing, but for events and exhibitions, where it serves one purpose: to impress absolutely anyone who sees or hears it. It has become an icon among enthusiasts, proving that this idea is still alive today. And here's something interesting. It was built almost entirely by hand, showing that some of the most insane machines come from pure passion rather than big manufacturers. And if this already feels extreme, the next one takes things even further, with one of the largest engines ever placed in a car. Fiat S76, Beast of Turin. The Fiat S76 was launched in 1911 in Italy, created with one clear objective: to surpass speed records set by European rivals. At a time when aviation was still in its early days, Fiat followed a similar path, investing in massive engines and raw, uncompromising power. At its core is a 4-cylinder engine with an astonishing 28.4 liters of displacement. Even though it wasn't taken directly from an aircraft, it was developed with the same philosophy as early aviation engines, focusing on massive torque and the ability to run under heavy load for extended periods. This engine produced around 300 horsepower, an outrageous number for the early 20th century. But what really stood out wasn't just the power, it was the force. The torque was so immense that the car felt like it was pushing the ground as it accelerated. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour was extremely quick for its time, and top speed exceeded 210 kilometers per hour, placing the S76 among the fastest cars in the world back then. Fuel consumption was very high, with extremely low efficiency, similar to early aircraft engines. The manual transmission was heavy and primitive, requiring real physical effort. Rear-wheel drive and the lack of an effective suspension made it extremely difficult and dangerous to drive. The name Beast of Turin makes perfect sense. The engine is enormous and almost fully exposed, with the driver sitting right beside it. The sound is loud, metallic, and aggressive, reminiscent of industrial machines and early aircraft engines. In practice, it was used for speed record attempts, solving one challenge, reaching numbers that many believed were impossible at the time. Over the years, it became a historical legend, later restored and brought back to life, impressing a whole new generation. And here's something incredible. The driver practically sat next to the engine, feeling heat, vibration, and noise at an intensity that would be unthinkable today. And if you think this is already brutal, the next one takes it even further, turning massive power into a modern-day spectacle. Blastolene Special. The Blastolene Special was created in the United States in the early 2000s by Randy Grubb, with a clear goal to revive the era of cars powered by aircraft engines, but pushing it to an even more extreme level. And this is no mild build. It uses a real engine derived from military and aviation technology. At the heart of it is a Continental AV1790 V12 engine with around 30 liters of displacement. Originally designed for heavy military vehicles, it carries engineering roots from aviation, built to operate under extreme load for long periods. It produces around 900 horsepower, but the most impressive number is the torque, easily exceeding 200 kilograms Fahrenheit. That means the car moves with barely any throttle input. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour happens in about 6 seconds, which is impressive considering its size and weight. Top speed is around 225 kilometers per hour. Fuel consumption is extremely high, often below 2 kilometers per liter, reflecting its raw and uncompromising nature. The transmission is automatic, adapted from a bus to handle the massive torque. Rear-wheel drive requires respect, because despite the weight, the force can easily break traction. The suspension was reinforced to handle the enormous weight, providing at least some level of control. Visually, the Blastolene Special is massive. The hood seems endless, completely dominated by the engine. The sound is deep, heavy, and constant, very similar to an aircraft in operation. In practice, it's used in events and exhibitions, serving one simple purpose: to grab attention everywhere it goes. It became even more famous after being acquired by Jay Leno, one of the world's most well-known car collectors. And here's something interesting. Despite its size and brutality, it's fully functional and can actually be driven on the street. And if you think this is already extreme, the next one takes things to a whole new level, with a true aircraft engine in its rawest form. BMW Brutus. The BMW Brutus was built in Germany, using a chassis from the 1920s. But what really makes it stand out is what's under the hood. Unlike modern adaptations, this machine received a real aircraft engine from World War I, with no compromises at all. Under the hood sits a BMW VI engine, a V12 with approximately 46.9 liters, originally used in German aircraft during the 1920s. Designed to deliver constant power in flight, it turned into something truly brutal on the ground. It produces around 500 horsepower, but again, the real highlight is torque. Absolutely massive. The feeling isn't just acceleration, it's a continuous wave of force pushing the car forward at any speed. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour takes around 8 to 10 seconds, while top speed can exceed 200 kilometers per hour. Those numbers might not seem shocking today, but considering the size and age of the machine, they are extraordinary. Fuel consumption is extreme, easily dropping below 1 kilometer per liter, behaving just like an aircraft engine. The transmission is manual and extremely heavy, requiring real strength to shift. Rear-wheel drive combined with the massive weight makes the driving experience raw and intense. The suspension is simple and robust, just enough to keep the car manageable. Visually, the Brutus is intimidating. The huge V12 engine is almost fully exposed. And in some cases, flames can be seen coming out of the exhaust. The sound is deafening, sharp, and aggressive, just like an old aircraft engine running at full power. In practice, it's used in events and demonstrations, showing exactly what happens when you put a pure aircraft engine into a car with no filters. It has become a legend among enthusiasts for one reason. It doesn't try to hide its brutality. The engine was found abandoned for decades before being restored and given this new life on wheels. And if this already feels extreme, the next one pushes things even further, with a machine known simply as the Beast. The Beast, John Dodd. The Beast became famous in the 1970s in the United Kingdom. Created by John Dodd, an engineer who decided to take the idea of putting an aircraft engine into a road car to the absolute extreme. And there's no middle ground here. This is one of the most legendary aircraft engines ever built. Under the massive hood sits a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, a 27-liter V12, the same used in iconic World War II aircraft, like the Supermarine Spitfire and the Hawker Hurricane. An engine designed for aerial combat, now pushing a car on asphalt. It produces around 1,500 horsepower with absolutely massive torque. The acceleration feels completely different from a normal car. It's like the power never ends. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour happens in about 5 seconds, despite the car's size, and top speed can exceed 290 kilometers per hour. Fuel consumption is extreme, often dropping below 1 kilometer per liter, far beyond normal automotive standards. The transmission is automatic, adapted to handle this brutal force. Rear-wheel drive makes it challenging to control, demanding full attention from the driver. The suspension was reinforced to deal with the massive weight of the engine, keeping the car stable within limits. Visually, the Beast is intimidating. The hood is enormous, almost endless. And the car draws attention everywhere it goes. The sound is deep, heavy, and continuous, unmistakably similar to a World War II aircraft engine. In practice, it was built for road use and exhibitions, proving one simple thing, that it was possible to tame a fighter plane engine in a car. It quickly became a legend, gaining worldwide attention not only for its engineering, but also for legal disputes with Rolls-Royce. And here's a curious detail. Because of those disputes, the car had to remove the Rolls-Royce badge, but the engine remained, making it even more iconic. And if you think you've already seen the peak of absurdity, the next one completely redefines what a car even is. Leyat Helica. The Leyat Helica was created in 1919 in France by Marcel Leyat, an aeronautical engineer who decided to do something completely different. Instead of adapting an aircraft engine into a traditional car, he brought the entire aviation concept directly to the ground. Here, the engine isn't hidden under a hood. It sits at the front, connected directly to a propeller, just like an airplane. That means this car literally moves by being pushed through the air. The engine was a 2-cylinder unit, around 1.0 to 1.2 liters, supplied by manufacturers like ABC or Anzani, the same used in light aircraft at the time. So this isn't just inspired by aviation, it's a true aircraft engine used in its purest form. Power ranged between 8 and 18 horsepower depending on the version. It may sound low, but the extremely lightweight design completely changes the experience. The 0 to 100 kilometers per hour was of the focus, but some versions could exceed 100 kilometers per hour in top speed, which was impressive for such a light and unconventional vehicle. Fuel consumption was relatively low compared to others on this list, reaching around 15 kilometers per liter. There's no traditional transmission. Power is delivered directly through the propeller, and speed control is basically managed by engine RPM. Traction doesn't follow the usual pattern, since the car isn't pulled by the wheels, but pushed by air. The suspension is simple and lightweight, just enough to keep everything functional. Visually, the Helica looks like something out of an experiment. A narrow body, thin wheels, and a fully exposed spinning propeller at the front. The sound is light but constant, like a small aircraft about to take off. It was designed as an efficient post-war vehicle, lightweight and economical, solving problems related to fuel and material shortages. It became one of the most unusual vehicles in history, simply because it completely breaks the concept of what a car should be. And here's an interesting detail. Later versions added protection around the propeller for safety, because the risk was exactly what it looks like. After seeing this, it's hard to even call it a car. It feels more like an airplane that decided to drive on the road.
Aeronautical designer Leyat conceived the Leyat Helica, as we see now, being piloted.
Throughout this video, you've seen machines that completely defy logic, from cars influenced by aviation to true monsters powered by warplane engines. Each one shows how far the pursuit of speed has pushed engineering. From the Napier Railton to the Beast, and projects like the Brutus and the Helica, it's clear these aren't just vehicles. They are extreme creations driven by bold ideas, creativity, and an obsession with going beyond limits. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one impressed you the most? Which one would you love to see in person? And which one do you think is the most insane of them all? If you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That really helps the channel grow and shows YouTube that this content matters. And also drop a comment telling me what kind of videos you want to see next. Because every week there's a new video featuring the most incredible, rare, and unusual machines ever created. I'll see you in the next video.